looks like it's going to be challenging for a while. And we want to remind the president of the college that you are making such a wonderful contribution through your program. And so this is for your college president to put on her list.
Good afternoon. I'm Genevieve Carminati, and I'm a professor of English, and since 2001, the college-wide coordinator of the Women's and Gender Studies program at Montgomery College. On behalf of the program, I'm honored to accept this award for Maryland Now, and humbled by your generous tribute to our mission and the work that we do. To the people in our program who continue to do that work, and to the remarkable students who give that work its value and meaning. And I do want to point out that some of the folks from our program are here today. Professor Tara Cutchell, Professor Pat Rupert here, and Omi Rustin, who is the administrative assistant for the program and the backbone. As we all know, when you have someone who you can count on, gives you a lot of freedom to do what you need to do. It's reassuring to know that what we do is appreciated and recognized beyond the realm of the campus. For as a community college, it is essential that we be affected by our community, and that we all share in this mutual benefits our collaborations afford us. We do this partly through sponsoring events, speakers, and discussions on important issues. We also sponsor a food pantry and have for over 20 years. It's a great honor to receive this award here at this prestigious conference before so many accomplished, dedicated, and caring people who take responsibility to address issues regarding women, gender, and equality, and make change their goal. The theme of this conference, the power of women, past, present, and future, applies aptly to the history and the plans yet to come of the Women's and Gender Studies program at Montgomery College. So a few words about our program. First and foremost, the community college has a social justice mission. We are out to change students' lives and thus the society itself through education. A Women's and Gender Studies program within a community college is at least doubly charged to meet this agenda of changing lives for societal progress. Service and activism are elemental to the curriculum. A feminist approach to education encourages students to recognize their strength, their voice, their power, challenges hierarchical approaches to teaching and learning, and encourages students to assume responsibility for the methods and materials studied in classes through presentations, group work, among other activities where students' knowledge is shared and valued. Examining the world outside the classroom is significant to understanding what we discuss and consider in Women's and Gender Studies, which applies to our very lives. Here's how we describe our program and the courses we offer. The Women's and Gender Studies program, WGSP, offers courses about women and gender for all students. The program is designed to explore the experiences and cultural contributions of women and those in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, as well as examine the societal implications of gender. Informed by feminist, gender, and sexuality theory, the courses in WGSP challenge false assumptions and theories about women, gender, sexuality, race, and class, encourage rigorous critical thinking, raise issues of gender bias, and the subjective nature of knowledge, support students' development as individuals and as participating members of their larger communities, and expand options for all beyond traditional gender roles. These writing-intensive courses help students consider the differences gender and sexuality make in family relationships, friendships, education, and work. These classes are comfortable settings for delving into scholarship and theory. As part of our mission objectives, what we say is, we accept the responsibility for the work we do, hold it to a high standard, and we are ready to adapt to the diverse needs of our students as they change with the times. Our program has always developed and grown in direct response to our students' needs. It has its origins in the 1970s, some of us remember, when women were returning to college in large numbers. Even before we were a program, faculty and staff developed services to meet the unique challenges of these returning women, who often had families or who had been divorced and were juggling school and jobs. Specific counseling, study groups, and tutoring were among the support offered to these women. In the 1980s and 1990s, curriculum transformation of the courses throughout the college examined the ways in which what was taught and studied preferenced some privileged groups' ideas, scholarship, and experiences, and excluded and neglected others. The work of curriculum transformation was to make disciplines more inclusive and diverse, and it's easy to see how women's studies naturally followed, as courses such as history, psychology, philosophy, literature, and health began to focus on and include women. Students responded well to learning more about women, their struggles and achievements. In the 2000s, in response to requests from students, often those who saw that it would be an advantage in their careers, we developed a certificate in women's studies. We also became more conscious that the discipline was expanding to embrace gender and sexuality studies, and our students wanted and often needed our program to expand too, to include them. We developed 2 new courses in gender studies, one specifically on LGBT plus studies, and we have proposed a new curriculum that we are hoping will be approved soon, a certificate in women's and gender studies. We also look ahead to offer new courses that reflect our students' needs. In earlier panels, one of you glad to hear, we're developing a Women in STEM class, and there may be more in the future that we can't even predict right now as we continue to respond to our students' needs. Every year we award scholarships to our students, financed by endowments, donations, and funds we raise through our annual scholarship reception. Our most recent reception was this past Thursday, so we're a little tired, where we awarded 25 scholarships to students in our program. Students are selected not only based on academic achievement, but on service and leadership and need as well. So we know often, particularly women students, have a lot on their plate, and so we do a holistic kind of review of scholarship applications where we recognize maybe they don't have the highest grades, but what else is going on in their lives. As we look ahead at this conference to the power of women in the future, I must say that our students make me believe that we are in good hands. I would like to read you a few comments from the students' application essays to show you how committed and socially conscious these students are and how they are working to change the world. One student wrote, Taylor Alexis Harley, "Women's studies brought context to the concerns and realities around the world for women," the course she's talking about, non-binary genders, and those of alternative sexualities. "Currently, I am hoping to join a nonprofit group that monitors domestic violence court cases in Montgomery County to provide aid, advocacy, and collect data on domestic violence. The Intro to Women's Studies course was the motivational push that gave me the courage and additional knowledge to get back to action. I found that ultimately, I did want to help survivors in my career as a therapist, instead of avoiding it as I had before out of fear and pain. This is just the start, and there's much left to be explored and built upon." And Gabriel Melgar discussed his commitment to women's issues this way. "Another initiative I've had the opportunity to be involved in is the Wayuu Project. This project aims to address the water issue in the Wayuu tribe in Colombia by empowering women in the tribe through merchandising their beautiful handmade products in our own community. Last year, we were successful in selling their merchandise and were able to provide the tribe with clean water for 700 people for 5 years. Both of these initiatives have allowed my peers and I to help empower women in the need to create sustainable change. I have been actively involved in these projects and hope to continue their success in the future. These are just a few of the many students we know who are committed to change and to creating a just and equal society for us all. We are fortunate that they choose to study in our program. Thank you so much for your support and recognition of the Women's and Gender Studies program at Montgomery College. It's an honor to be recognized by Marilyn now. I've been involved in the program since 1999, and I became the coordinator in 2001. So a little while.
Amazing. Some of us have been in the trenches that long, and we encourage the rest of you who haven't been to join us. So we have two delegates who will be speaking to us about what's happening in the legislature. And Jennifer Jones is...
Those of you who do not know me know that I should know, and those who know me already know that I live by a simple creed: when women are well. When women are well, then their families are well. When women are well, their children are well. When women are well, their relationships are well. And when women are well, their families are strong. And it is strong families that build strong communities. And it's strong communities how we make strong counties, and we build a great state of Maryland that we can all champion and celebrate. And so I'm elated to have this opportunity to be with these two elected leaders. I have some questions, but I'm going to give both of them 2 minutes to do a self-introduction, and I think through my questions you'll be able to share with the audience your priorities and what you want them to know.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't know if this is working, but...
Okay, that's better. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, and I am from Howard County, where I was born and raised in Howard County. So I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, and I'm sure Ms. Jones will cut me off, okay, when my 2-minute introduction is over. But I was born and raised in Howard County. I left there after graduating high school to attend the College of William & Mary, where I was a government major and a theater minor. And then I left William & Mary and went to Villanova for law school, and then I returned home. Well, I didn't return to Howard County because I was young and I was single and I wanted to live in the city, D.C., but my parents didn't want me to, so I lived in Montgomery County, where I spent about 13 years. And growing up in Howard County, my parents, particularly my mother, really taught me to be involved in the community, and I always was. As a child, in college, I began working at a domestic violence shelter and became very active in those issues. I continued that in law school. And then when I moved to Montgomery County, through my sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha, I joined the grad chapter, and one of the members there said, "You are going to be our member on the planning committee for the Women's Legislative Briefing." And then through that, I met some of you ladies who I see in the audience, and it's where I believe I met Ms. Jones. And then I actually applied and was appointed to the Commission for Women, and ended up serving as chair and eventually as president. And I actually had to step down because I decided to return to Howard County, where my parents were, my brother, and to raise my children. So currently I am the mother of 3 young children. Grayson is 7, Holden is 5, and my daughter Victoria, who runs the show, is 4. And I initially ran for office in 2010 when I lived in Montgomery County, and I'm getting the tap. I lost that election. I was devastated, but everything works out for the best because then I moved home and I represent the area where I grew up. And in 2014, an opportunity came. I was running for office, found out I was pregnant with my daughter at the time, won the election on my birthday, and now I just love what I do. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions, and I'm happy to turn it over.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Let's go with this one. Thank you. I'm Delegate Karen Lewis Young. I represent District 3A. If you're wondering where that is, you're in it. It is the city of Frederick and an amoeba around it. I did not run for political office until a couple of years ago. I will tell you how I got there. I went to Franklin Marshall College in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, history major, went on to Columbia University where I got a master's in American history. Worked for a year, and then I went back to Columbia a second time and received an MBA with a major in marketing, a minor in finance. Spent the next 3 decades of my life in banking and financial services. The first half of my career, I was working for large money center banks, Chase Manhattan Bank, Citicorp, American Express, and I transitioned from that because I was a single parent, and those assignments progressively had me on the road more and more. And when my daughter's nanny said, "You need to come home tomorrow, I have a date," I knew this wasn't working. So then I started working for large regional banks, which is how I got to Frederick in 1996. I was recruited by Farmers and Mechanics National Bank to be the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Training, and here I am 23 years later. But as I worked for community banks, I got more and more involved in the community. And through my career, I have been a volunteer or on the board of directors of about 18 organizations. Started enjoying that a lot more than banking and financial services. So sometime around 2009, I was reading an article in the newspaper about some decisions that local government had made that I did not think were financially astute. And talking to myself, I said, why don't we have elected officials that understand the financial ramifications of the decisions they make? Looked up, saw my reflection in the mirror, had an aha moment. 2 weeks later, I decided to run for alderman for the city of Frederick. I was president pro tem for 4 years. Then I ran for the General Assembly. This is my second term as a delegate. I am on the Health and Government Operations Committee. I absolutely love it. Healthcare is probably the most challenging issue we face today, and the connection is we need to make financially responsible decisions because we can't do it all. We need to prioritize. Thank you.
So, ladies, disappointment in 2016, the tenor of the White House now. Then we have 2018, where the 116th Congress that was sworn in is boasting of 127 women in Congress. And of those, yes, you can applaud that. That's outstanding. And 25 women in the Senate. We are leading. You two are leaders. And it's almost seeming as if it's making women in leadership become normal. What's next for women in leadership, and what do women need to know about your leadership as women?
Thank you. Despite that, I think we have a way to go. We have not had a female governor in the state of Maryland. We have not had a Speaker of the House. We have not had a President of the Senate. And we have not had a President of the United States. So while we have made inroads in numbers, I still believe we need to get more women in leadership capacity. What was the second part of your question?
That was it. What do you think is next for women in
that's
leadership?
next. Didn't you say something about what do
women need to know?
What do women need to know
about whatever your opinion is?
Working collaboratively, I think that's something that my observation is women tend to do better. At the end of the day, we're never going to agree with each other, but you need to let that go and work for the greater good. And I do think women are much better at doing that and not playing the political backstabbing games that hold us back.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Thank you. I do think we still have a ways to go too. I think there are 50-some women in the House and in the General Assembly. This is my second term. I was made Vice Chair of the Judiciary Committee. We have 2 female committee chairs out of 6 committees, in 3 women out of 6 in the House. And I think what's important to know is don't wait for someone to ask if you're interested in running for office. Men get recruited. I, fortunately or unfortunately, in some circumstances, took a lot of direction and personality traits from my dad, and I do what I want to do. And so I didn't wait for someone to come tell me to run. When I ran in 2010, there were plenty of people that came to me and said, no, you shouldn't do this. No, maybe you should run for this office first. And I said, no, I want to be in the General Assembly. And so that's what I did. Women don't raise as much money as men. This past cycle, male senators were being offered easily $1,000 more than me, and you have to be assertive. I called up those same groups and said, look, I know so-and-so about X, I want X. And that's what we have to do, and we're not used to doing that. But when we are in office, the conversation is different, and the things that we bring to the table and our perspectives are different. So it's absolutely important that we keep encouraging younger women to run for office.
Wonderful, 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 yes. So there's something that we know with the women in Congress that we're hoping to have finally the Equal Rights Amendment passed. We can only hope. But with that, there's equality that makes us all equal. There's equity that gives us what we each need as groups and individuals to be successful. And then there's inclusion. How much equity, equality, and inclusion do you feel in the Maryland General Assembly? What needs to change? If anything.
Right. So I think there is a slow shift that started when Delegate Lewis and I were first elected in 2014 and there were 63 new electeds in the House. And now, this past election, 2018, I think there's a slow shift and a slow mind change. I mean, there isn't enough equality, equity, and inclusion. And I heard it said earlier, particularly if you're a woman, and then if you're both, which I'm both. And so, I think folks are used to coming to you and telling you how you should view this bill, how this legislation should work, and what you're going to do. And I say last term, probably halfway into it, so my 3rd year, or probably more my 4th year, was when I think, some older gentlemen, I had my don't mess with me, moments, and now they take me a lot serious. And Delegate Cardin from Baltimore County, who's on my committee, he was joking with me. He said, when I came here, I heard you were very, very determined. He said, in a good way. But, I think there's a lot of telling younger women how they're going to do their legislation, what they're going to think, and how things are going to go. And I think that's slowly changing. And I think also the leadership is slowly changing too, and folks are more open to that.
I would add 2 other things to that. We've had a pretty rigid good old boy network for decades in the Maryland General Assembly. One of the concerns I have is that even though women are getting into leadership, we sometimes have a good old girl network, and we can't operate the way we did in the past. We need to have opportunity defined by capability and not who plays the game. So I'm hoping that as more and more women enter both bodies and come into leadership, that some of the old game rules will change. Also, I think it's really important that women mentor women. It's been mentioned before that women may have equal or better ability, but always carry a certain amount of doubt. I had the good fortune of being mentored by a woman, my aunt, who broke a huge glass ceiling by being the most senior administrator at Harvard University for about 20 years, and that was a pretty thick glass ceiling. She mentored me, she inspired me, and I have always felt compelled to keep that going. We need more of that to ensure equality, equity, and inclusion.
So ladies, we have 60 seconds for each one of you. Tell me, what are your top priorities, or what do women need to know?
Thank you. So I generally work on issues that affect women, which are all issues, but domestic violence, child abuse, and gun issues. Last session I passed a domestic violence gun transfer bill that ensured that guns were actually being turned over from prohibited persons. This year I have a bill for long guns, rifles, and shotguns to require background checks, which would close a loophole in our state. I also have a bill related to human trafficking and vacating, you can clap, vacating offenses that a lot of survivors have received, or convictions related to the human trafficking, like petty larceny or robbery, things that they were forced to do. So we're hoping to get that passed. I also have an emancipation bill that will hopefully get passed for those who would like to get emancipated. And with that, thank you. I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards.
Thank you. As I mentioned earlier, I have concentrated on healthcare issues, making healthcare more accessible and more affordable. That'll be an ongoing challenge. I've also worked on legislation to try to battle the opioid epidemic. I've also stepped outside of that because I have been a lifelong supporter of women's equality. For the 4th year, I have been the lead sponsor of the salary history bill, which says you cannot ask what your past salary history is, because it disproportionately discriminates against women and minorities. Passed in the House twice. We still have to move it in the Senate. So here are the 2 things that I have learned. One other bill that is fairly major, and it's going to pass this year after 4 years. Patient Bill of Rights. For all the hospitals in the state of Maryland, you now will have 24 rights that hospitals must present you with when you're admitted. So I have learned patience, and I have also learned the challenge of trying to fight the special interest groups. When I first got on Health and Government Operations, my chair said, "Oh, healthcare isn't political." 95% of the time we all agree. And after 6 weeks, and I came back to him and I said, "It sure is political. We've got the doctors fighting the hospitals, fighting the pharmaceutical industry, who's fighting the insurance companies." So standing up to those special interest groups and not being afraid to do that has been a major challenge.
Thank you all so much.